Welcome to segment number 8 of our V-2 build series. In this segment we're going to be prepping and painting the remaining small parts for the model. Before we get started on that though, we're going to glue the warhead piece into the top of the airframe. First thing we're going to do is just dry fit it one more time to make sure that the fit is good. If the fit isn't good, you can sand this out just a little bit using some sandpaper wrapped around a wine cork, as we showed you in an earlier segment. I'm going to be using the Plastruct Plastic Weld cement on this. It's a little thicker cement and a little more aggressive. I'm going to paint this on the inside surface here, taking care not to get any on the outside surface of the airframe tube. I'll set that to the side and twist the warhead into place. We're done with that step. I'll set that to the side and we'll begin work on our small parts. Here are our remaining small parts. We have 4 exhaust vanes and we also have a warhead fuse tip. I'm going to set the warhead fuse tip to the side for now. I'll bring in our nippers, sprue cutters, and we'll note that there's some tiny bits of plastic still adhering to one side of each exhaust vane. This is leftover flash from an ejector pin. I'm going to snip most of that off. And then I'm going to take a coarse sanding stick and I'm going to sand that little nub until it's gone pretty much. Finally, the remains of the ejector pin are gone. I'm going to bring in a finer sanding stick and polish that just a little bit more. Looks good. I'll set that to the side and I'll do the same for the remaining 3 parts. We should note at this point that the particular V-2 variant that we'll be building is based on the markings as seen on the V-2 on display at the Imperial War Museum in London. It has what appears to be a research warhead tip. That's the straight tip that's about 18 millimeters long in this particular scale. So what we'll need to do is take the fuse tip, the warhead tip that comes with the kit, and we'll need to sand the tip to a fine point. It's actually quite simple to do. I'll take a coarse sanding stick and gently scrape the part against the sanding stick while rotating it slowly. Now we do want to be careful not to snap the tip or make it too sharp. Right about there looks pretty good. There are also some seam lines on the side of the part that we can feel. I'll use a medium stick to get rid of those seam lines. And then I'll move to a finer grit. I'll give the entire part an overall final polishing, slowly rotating it. We're now finished with our fuse tip. Our exhaust vanes are ready, and we're ready to paint them. We're now ready to prep for painting of these detail parts. I've got a couple of things here that might seem a little unusual. First, I have an old scrap of balsa stock. You can see I've used it for painting in the past. I've also got a piece of notebook paper that I've folded into quarters. I have medium viscosity cyanoacrylate adhesive. and I also have some CA accelerator. What we're going to do here is glue each of these parts onto the edge of this balsa stock for holding purposes. We're then going to paint them, first priming them and then putting the color coats on. And having them stuck on the edge of this stick will just make them easier to manage. Let's begin by attaching the post, the mounting post, of each of the exhaust vanes to this stick. It's very simple to do. I'm going to create a puddle of our medium viscosity adhesive here. I'm going to dip the mounting post of the exhaust vane into the glue. I'm going to hold it in place and then put a single drop of the accelerator on the joint. I'll repeat it for the other parts. We now have all 5 parts adhered to the edge of the stick. I'm going to take this outside and spray it with some Tamiya Fine Surface Primer. We're back and we've successfully primed the detail parts. It's time to paint them with some color coats. The paints we're going to be using for this step are Tamiya's semi-gloss black acrylic for the exhaust vanes, and the warhead fuse tip we'll be using Tamiya's dark gray acrylic. Now you'll notice that I've used Tamiya products extensively on this project. There's a reason for that. I find them to be extremely high quality, extremely consistent, and very easy to use. Here are our completed parts. We'll let this dry for a couple of hours, then we'll snap the parts off of the holding stick and put them back in the box for safekeeping until final assembly. Let's move on to the next segment.